one of Tibetan Association of Santa Fe advisor and a longtime supporter of Tibet, to read the proclamation given by the Office of Governor Michele Lujan Grisham and Mayor Alan Weber. Welcome.
Thank you for that wonderful speech. Okay, this first one is from Michele Grisham, the governor. Can you hear me okay? Yeah? Louder? Okay. Whereas the state of New Mexico recognizes the rich cultural history and heritage of Tibet and the Tibetan people, whereas on March 10th, 2019, Tibetans will commemorate more than half the occupation and exile and exodus of about 80,000 Tibetans across the Himalayas. And whereas we support the conclusion of the United States government that under the established principle of international law, Tibet is an occupied country whose true representative is the exiled government, the exiled Tibetan government based in India, headed by Sikyong Lobsang Sangye. And whereas the Tibetan people acknowledge and honor His Holiness the Dalai Lama, recipient of numerous awards from many governments and institutions, including the Nobel Peace Prize and the United States Congressional Gold Medal, and as spiritual and temporal leader of Tibet, and hereby encourage the People's Republic of China to enter into discussions with His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan government to solve the question of Tibet based on the will of the Tibetan people and ensure and respect for the fundamental rights of Tibetan people. Now, therefore, Michele Lujan Grisham, Governor of the State of New Mexico, does hereby proclaim March 10th, 2019 as Tibet Day throughout the state of New Mexico. And this is the proclamation of Mayor Alan Weber, of Mayor of Santa Fe. Whereas the Tibetan community of Santa Fe is dedicated to the restoration of freedom and dignity for Tibetan people in Tibet, and whereas the Tibetan community of Santa Fe continues its work to preserve Tibetan culture and identify and identity, whereas His Holiness the Dalai Lama has made consistent efforts to engage Chinese leadership in dialogue to resolve the Tibetan issue peacefully, and whereas for over 4 centuries the city of Santa Fe has welcomed it says 4 centuries. Oh, excuse me. Whereas over 4 centuries, the city of Santa Fe has embraced people of all cultures and religions from all across the world. And whereas the local Tibetan community adds depth and richness to the city of Santa Fe, therefore now, I, Alan Weber, Mayor of the city of Santa Fe, do hereby proclaim March 10th as Tibet Rights Day. So, que viva Tibet, que viva the Tibetan culture and Tibetan people. May I say a few words? Okay. Sorry. First, I want to say, as a friend and unofficial advisor to the Tibetan immigrant community in Santa Fe since maybe 1992, 91 or 92, since the resettlement program began here, what I have observed is that even though the Tibetan people are probably less than 1% of Santa Fe population, you have been just exemplary citizens and examples to all of us here. You've excelled in every area of community citizenship, leadership, quality, education, home ownership, participation. You've brought so much to our community and our culture and our home that we thank you. You've been our teachers, and your gifts to us have been immeasurable. And so I've witnessed that, and I don't have statistics to verify it, but I am confident that you are leaders in every realm of measurement for the success of an immigrant community in America. So we are so very fortunate to have you. And beyond that, I want to say a couple of other things. I first encountered His Holiness in 1979. I lived in Seattle. He visited the Dharma Center there, and then he lectured at the University of Washington. And it was one of the most memorable events of my life when I saw him and heard him in Seattle. And it was such a gift that you have given to the world, with His Holiness allowing him to have freedom and to come to the rest of the world and bring the Buddha Dharma to America, and with not only His Holiness but so many other great teachers, saints, sages, Rinpoches, and leaders. And Dujam Rinpoche also in Seattle, I remember when he came, same thing. It was just one of the most extraordinary moments of my life. And so what you have given us is so much more than what we have given you, and what you have given the world is so much greater than the refuge the various countries have offered to you. So just to say that, and how thankful I am for you, and how much I hope and pray for the continued freedom of, or thriving, the survival of your culture, and also, of course, for the freedom of the people in Tibet. And finally, you notice that the statement came from Nancy Pelosi, and so that's very important, because America is facing difficult times right now too. Our rejection of immigration, our rejection of human rights at the top level of our government. So please become very active and help support those leaders who will support immigrants and support human rights in the United States and around the world, and will not support oligarchy and tyranny where it is thriving in other countries. So anyway, thank you, Tashi Delek, Free Tibet.